The 264th Infantry Regiment was a hard-fighting unit of the United States Army during the Second World War, serving as part of the 66th Infantry Division, known as the Black Panther Division. Though often overshadowed by divisions that fought from Normandy to Germany, the 264th played a vital and costly role in securing Allied gains during the final year of the war, particularly in the bitter fighting along the French Atlantic coast. Formation and activation. The 264th Infantry Regiment was activated on July 15, 1943 at Camp Rucker, Alabama, alongside the rest of the 66th Infantry Division. Its ranks were composed largely of draftees and volunteers from across the United States, men from farms, factories, and small towns who would soon be tested under fire. Early command of the regiment fell to experienced regular Army officers, though leadership would change as the regiment moved closer to combat. From the outset, emphasis was placed on discipline, unit cohesion, and mastering the fundamentals of infantry warfare. Training in the United States. Throughout late 1943 and early 1944, the 264th underwent extensive training at several camps, including Camp Rucker and later Camp Blanding, Florida. Soldiers trained in small unit tactics, amphibious operations, defensive warfare, night patrols, and field fortifications. Particular attention was paid to coastal defense and containment operations, training that would later prove crucial. By the spring of 1944, the regiment was considered combat ready. Movement to the European theater. The 264th Infantry Regiment deployed overseas in November 1944, landing in England before moving on to France. By this stage of the war, Allied forces had already broken out of Normandy and were advancing toward Germany, but significant German garrisons still held key ports along the Atlantic coast. The 66th Infantry Division was assigned to General George S. Patton's Third Army, with a mission that was strategically essential but often overlooked, containing and neutralizing German forces isolated in fortified coastal enclaves. Combat operations in Brittany. The regiment entered combat in December 1944 in Brittany, western France. Here, German forces, cut off from the main front, had entrenched themselves in heavily fortified ports and coastal strongholds, including Lorient and Saint-Nazaire. Rather than storm these positions outright, Allied strategy called for containment. The 264th Infantry Regiment was tasked with holding extended defensive lines, conducting aggressive patrols, preventing German breakout attempts, wearing down enemy morale through constant pressure. This was dangerous, grinding warfare. Though front lines were relatively static, combat was frequent and lethal. The Battle of the Bulge and Reinforcement Crisis. In December 1944, Germany launched its last major offensive, the Battle of the Bulge. While the 264th did not fight in the Ardennes, the offensive had a direct impact on the regiment. Reinforcements and supplies were diverted elsewhere, forcing the 264th to hold long stretches of front with limited resources. German artillery fire, snipers, and sudden probing attacks kept the regiment under constant threat. Winter conditions were harsh, with cold, rain, and mud adding to the misery. Disaster at sea, the loss of the Leopoldville. One of the darkest moments connected to the regiment occurred on the 24th of December, 1944, when elements of the 264th Infantry Regiment were aboard the Belgian troopship SS Leopoldville en route to France. The ship was struck by a German torpedo in the English Channel. Due to confusion, poor communication, and inadequate rescue coordination, hundreds of American soldiers drowned, many of them from the 264th. The tragedy claimed over 760 American lives, making it one of the deadliest maritime disasters in U.S. military history. Survivors of the regiment carried the psychological scars of the disaster for the rest of their lives. Continued operations and the end of the war. Despite these losses, the 264th Infantry Regiment continued its mission through early 1945. The regiment maintained pressure on German garrisons, conducted reconnaissance patrols, and responded swiftly to any enemy movement. As Germany collapsed in May 1945, isolated German forces in Brittany finally surrendered. The regiment transitioned from combat duties to occupation and security operations, overseeing prisoner processing and restoring order. Legacy. The story of the 264th Infantry Regiment is one of endurance rather than sweeping advances. The men of the regiment fought an enemy that refused to surrender under conditions that offered little glory and constant danger. By holding the line in Brittany, the 264th ensured that vital Allied supply routes remained secure and that German forces could not rejoin the main fight in Germany. Their service, often unrecognized, was essential to final victory in Europe. The legacy of the 264th Infantry Regiment stands as a reminder that victory is not only won by those who advance the farthest, but by those who hold fast, endure loss, and complete their mission until the very end.